Today, I'm going to be talking about actions that I've taken in order to stop overthinking, in the hopes that it'll help you make your next big decision. As somebody who runs on the anxious side, I tend to overthink a lot. I ask myself questions about, is this something that's really possible? Is now the right time? Am I the right person for this? And all of these questions can really stop me from taking action. And I wished that in the past I had explicit advice from people about what actions that I need to take in order to break and interrupt the pattern of overthinking. So I'm sharing all of those now. When I was applying to graduate school, I was attending a lot of campus events. And I remember at one event that I went to, an alumni of the school said something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, you only aspire to things that you've been exposed to. So if you haven't been exposed to everything, how will you know what your next step will be? And I remember being both inspired and completely freaked out when she said this. Inspired because it was communicating, okay, the world is my oyster. I can do whatever I want as long as I can figure it out. And it also freaked me out because it was like, I can't possibly be exposed to everything. I can't possibly cobble together all of the information that I need to know right now in order to make the best next decision. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I don't need to make the best decision. I just need to make a decision now. And what was preventing me from making a decision was because I lacked self-awareness. I didn't have a clear idea about what I envisioned for the end goal, and I didn't have an opinion about how it would benefit me and what it would actually be doing for my life. And that's when I started to ask myself more questions to get clarity. What am I expecting going to school will do for me? Is there anything behind this goal that is being influenced by other people? If so, what? And once I started to ask myself all of these questions, I started developing a clearer vision about why I wanted to do this. And when I developed a clearer vision, I developed a clear opinion and had more conviction about why I wanted to pursue this next goal of going to school. So the first thing you need to do is develop some self-awareness around why it is you want this next thing to happen. Is it truly a goal that is yours and that you want for yourself? Or are you being pushed and pulled in all sorts of different directions in order to make a decision that you're not completely sure about yourself? After you decided that this is a goal that you actually want to pursue and you've made your choice that you are going to pursue it, you need to start thinking through the different types of decisions that you need to make in order to make this goal happen. And I like to break this up into passion decisions and practical decisions. And what I mean by passion decisions are you're pursuing this for a reason. And hopefully that reason has a lot to do with your own personal development and your motivations and your wants and what you want to create. And so you just have to get clear about what those things are and what are the choices that you need to make in order to make all of those a reality. Practical decisions are less exciting, but are choices that we have to make. So will making this choice have an impact on just you, or will it have an impact on other people? Will it require a lifestyle adjustment or a time commitment? You have to start thinking about what are the ways that this choice is going to impact other areas of your life. Then you have to start making decisions about what parts of those are going to have to flex if you start to pursue this thing. One of the issues that comes with overthinking is everything is just in your head. And oftentimes the information or the answer that you're seeking is on the other side of an action that you haven't taken yet. So you have to start moving outside of your brain and out into the world in order to break this overthinking pattern. And one of the best ways to do this is through exposure. So exposure can be passive, active, or immersive. What I mean by passive exposure is doing things like reading, listening to podcasts, watching videos, or even hosting informational interviews with people who are living the dream or living the life that you want, or in the career or industry that you want to move into. And the more you fill your brain with information, detailed information about what this next possibility could look and feel like in your life, then you start to get into the habit of thinking of yourself in this way. And it helps break the cycle of overthinking because you start to get a more realistic picture of what all of this means for you or could mean for you instead of staying in your head so much. The next form of immersion is active immersion. So by active immersion, I mean you're actively practicing the skills and the lifestyle that someone who would be in this goal life that you're aiming for is already practicing. So, for example, if you're thinking about your next big career move and you're breaking into a new industry, you could start talking to people who are already in that industry and asking them questions like, what is it that you do on a daily basis? Or what skills do you find yourself executing on the most in your daily job? And if it's something that you've never done before, there are all sorts of free courses and resources out there that can let you practice what it actually feels like to go through these tasks for hours at a time during the day. And you can start to feel whether or not this is something that you actually like doing, whether or not the goal that you're envisioning for the future is actually motivating you to actually go through the process of what it takes to get there, which is usually the boring stuff that no one ever hears about. It's the day-to-day tasks that make up the totality of this dream life that we're inspired to move towards. The third form of exposure is immersive. So what I mean by immersive is you are doing a part-time role or an internship in the space that you're looking to get into. You get to feel out whether or not these are environments that you want to spend more time in. The point is to immerse yourself in the type of life that you would need to be living if this next big decision for yourself became a reality. What does your day-to-day look like? Who are you talking to? What are the things that you have to talk about during that day-to-day basis? What tasks are you up to? What is your schedule like? When you immerse yourself in that sort of lifestyle, then you start to feel the reality of what it takes to get there. And you can decide whether or not that's something that you want to continue, or if you want to change ways and switch to a new goal. Another shift in mindset that I think helps with overthinking is not to get too bogged down into the specificity of the goal and not too hung up on a specific outcome. So in my career, the idea of SMART goals, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, timely. These are specific goals that lots of businesses and companies like to have that are measurable and aim to achieve output within a specific amount of time. And I think there's a lot of security that comes from structuring a goal like this. But when pursuing something that I don't have a lot of insight into, I like to think more of horizon goals. So for example, if my horizon goal is a general goal of breaking into a new industry like healthcare, I don't exactly know what the specific steps are yet that I need to do to break into that industry if I'm coming from outside of it, but I can start to make any move that I think will help get me into that space. And the horizon goal is generally get into healthcare. And the specific steps I take can be anything, whether it's doing informational interviews, attending industry events, reading books, and watching videos and podcasts. These are all actions that I'm taking that inch me closer towards that horizon goal. And as you start to learn more and immerse yourself more, then you start to realize that there are other avenues and pathways that you can take that are more streamlined towards getting you to that end goal. But you won't be able to see that until you actually take a few steps forward by taking more action. Another big realization that I had that's related to this is to internalize the idea that life is not one big decision, and the decisions that we make in life aren't the end all be all. We always have the option to change course if we want to. And I think this goes back to the quote that I shared earlier, is you only aspire to things that you've been exposed to. So if you're getting exposed to things, the more you learn and the more you make progress along the way, the more your ideas and goals are more likely to change and shift as you add more information. I think that'll help with overthinking because it puts less pressure on your first decision, because you know that your first decision is not your last, and you can make as many decisions and do as many twists and turns along the journey as you want. I also realized that when making any big life decisions, it's important to lean into the art of self-coaching. I think a lot of people, myself included, were trained to seek permission for the next thing to do, or whether or not the next choice is okay, or get really frantic about whether or not someone else has done it before. But I realized that one of the best skills to develop over my lifetime is the ability to self-coach myself through situations that feel uncertain or I have a lot of anxiety about. And trusting myself and knowing that even if I make the quote wrong choice, I can always figure my way out of it. And if I make the quote right choice, then great. And there's going to be another choice beyond that that's going to test those same muscles of trusting myself and realizing that my first choice is not going to be my last one, and I have control over where I go next after this. So whatever your next big decision is, I hope that these tips were helpful and that you take some action in order to get the ball rolling on whatever it is that you've had on your docket for a while. That's all for today. I'll see you next time. Thanks, y'all, and take care.